Good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime series with Kevin, international leadership coach, facilitator and trainer, an indirect force for change in the world, adding value to people's lives. The show happens every week on ebizradio.com and you can catch the Lunchtime series on all major podcast channels available today. For today's segment and for today's coaching segment, we have a performance coach for the busy CEOs who's over being a workaholic and craves to leverage their time to reach more people. Please welcome to the show, Yvonne Dram. Yvonne Dram, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks, Kevin. How are you?
Good. And is that the correct pronunciation, Yvonne Dram?
Yes.
Fantastic. So, Yvonne, I know that you're all the way from the Netherlands, and thank you for making time to sort of just get online with us and chat a little bit. But essentially, to kick it off today, please tell us who are you and tell us more about who you are and what it is you do.
Sure. Well, so I'm in the Netherlands. I am a performance coach, and I started my career as an international tax lawyer, and I started with one of the top 3 global audit firms. And I learned 3 things from working in a global audit firm. Time is money, be very effective, and don't waste time. And I was really good at it. So I climbed the corporate ladder rather fast. I held leadership positions in finance, in HR, sales and business development, and change management. And I also, because of that, I worked around the world and I lived around the world. So I've lived in Joburg, I've lived in Durban, and London, the US, and now I'm back in the Netherlands, but we're moving to Spain in a couple of weeks. So I've been around, so to say, and the one thing that actually never stopped was me giving everything I had, pouring my heart and soul into my work, so much so that I kind of lost myself because I was working day and night. And I got severely burned out, had to rest for a couple of months. And for the story, it would be great if I now can tell you, and then magically everything changed. But
yes.
Unfortunately, I'm very driven. I'm still driven to this day. And I didn't even realize that I was a workaholic until I had my own business. I finally was doing what I really love to do, coaching people, because I've always coached people. Started to coach executives in 2004. And then one morning I woke up and I thought, I don't want to go to work. Well, if you have your own business, that's really a telltale sign that something is off. So I was thinking, what's happened there? And I realized that I just felt like I was working nonstop. Even when I wasn't working, I was thinking about work. And that's where I finally took all the lessons about how to be more productive, how to be more effective. But I kept my number of hours and I focused on those things that really mattered in my business. And then things did magically change. Not magically, of course, but they did change. And that's now what I help people with. So everybody who feels like they have to work all the time, even though they don't want to, that's the people I help.
But it's the law of motion, motion, right? The moment you start putting stuff in, and that's what happens. It's so fantastic. But now one of the questions is, how do you recognize work addiction? And I think it's such a relevant conversation and question because so many people kind of go, well, this is normal. This is how I function. This is obviously, I have to be working from 8 till 6 or 7 or whatever. And, I must make sure that before I get to 8 o'clock in the morning, I must have checked my emails already. And so we have this life set up to be tired. And you're kind of going, I'm always tired. Why am I always tired? And then you got to still be a father or a mother and in a relationship, and you're still going to be active and you're still going to be healthy. And so how do we do that? Like, where's the recognition and how do we recognize the work addiction?
So the work addiction you recognize, and I think you described it already pretty much, when you are always working. So one of the things you most likely do first thing in the morning is you pick up your phone from your nightstand and you go check out your email. What do I have to do? and you put your phone away. Maybe you're even worse. You already start answering emails, but maybe you put your phone away. So basically, when you put your phone away, you've already switched on your mind, because your mind is already like, okay, I need to do this, 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 this. So you already switched on the switch to get overwhelmed, because you don't even have time to answer it right now. Maybe you need to work out, you need to get ready, you need to get your family ready. There's a lot going on. But all the while, in the back of your mind, you already go like, oh yeah, I have to do this. And and that reminds me, last week I didn't have time, but I still have to get back to. So you really, really start already that train of thoughts. That's actually doesn't help at all. Then you pour everything at work, most likely skipping lunch because you don't have time, or eating it behind your computer, rushing to get home, maybe put a meal on the table or what have you. And then, whether you are opening up your laptop at night again, or whether you're on your phone, or whether you're still thinking, you're constantly thinking about work. And it affects you a lot. So I'll give you an example. You and I have children, and you're playing with them, but you're actually not playing with them because, oh, let me just get that one email. You're not even there because you are drawn to work. Weekends, you have to catch up on work because there's a backlog. Holidays, the first thing what will happen is most likely you get very ill because you are so pushing yourself constantly that actually when you finally have no other way than to relax at holiday, everything comes out. It's just the constant drive, the constant feel, the need that you have to do something for work, and you never ever thoroughly switch off. That's when you are addicted.
And I think the word addicted is quite specific because people just think that that's normal, and that's how else am I supposed to live my life? But you won't know until you interrogate that. You won't have that answer. So the word addiction, I think, is prevalent, and I think is necessary because we don't know that we're addicted to this. But I mean, what do you do when you have to do a lot? You work with CEOs, you work with VIPs specifically, going through coaching, and these work schedules generally have loads to cover, and they're going to really jump around all the time, and yet you don't want to work all those hours. So how do we do this?
Well, I first would like to start by saying we all have 24 hours in a day, and it's really what you do with those 24 hours that make an impression. And when you're telling yourself that you're so busy, because we always do this, oh, I'm so busy, I have so much to do, you are reinforcing that you're so busy and that you have so much to do. For the first, if you're listening, don't say that to yourself because you're making it worse. Remember, everybody has 24 hours. So the president, the person you admire most, everybody, and they still make it work. So you can make it work as well. When you have a lot to do, the first thing I would like you to do, and I use a special framework for that. So I'll take you through the framework. And the framework is called the T.I.M.E matrix, T-I-M-E.
Yeah.
First thing, targets. What is it that's your goal? What do you need to achieve? So as a CEO, maybe you need to make the company more profitable. Okay, now I need to make it more profitable. So what do we need to do to get there? And then very important is, what do I need to do? And here is where it often goes wrong. We think we need to do everything. Whereas if everything goes well, you have a great team in place that you can delegate to, or you can automate, or you can outsource. You don't have to do everything yourself. So really the question is, what do I have to do? And is it necessary that I do this, or can someone else do it? And can they even do it better than me, which is often the case. And when you constantly, with everything that you want to start, ask yourself, do I have to do this, or is someone else better to do this? Then you already start seeing shifts. Because, for example, meetings, a lot of our calendars these days are swamped with meetings. Well, do you really need to be there? Does the meeting really need to last an hour, or is it just a standard set time? Can we do something to make it shorter? And there is so much you can influence where you may be not thinking about right now, but it's actually going to save you time. And what is more important, it's going to make you add more value to the task that you really need to do. So if you're overwhelmed, my advice is always go back to what's the goal? What are you trying to achieve? Look at the things that you feel you need to do right now. Which of those items are adding to you achieving those goals and which are not, because there might be more long term. So those are the ones you're going to postpone, or even better, forget about altogether.
Yeah. I love that. I love it. It's a fantastic way of sort of just getting some kind of structure around how you work with time. One of the things that stand out to me is meetings. People have meetings about meetings.
Yes.
And more meetings about those meetings. And, for me, one of the things that I'm currently teaching a group of managers and leaders is how to chunk information, right? That we chunk information up or we chunk information down. And the depending on, as a personality, as someone that just lives in the world and uses information, we all do it differently. And that's why, it's so essential. If you're going to have a meeting, have an agenda. And if it's 30 minutes, make sure that everyone's, sticking to 30 minutes long, because essentially, how you chunk information may not be how someone else does it. But it's how, as humans, we actively have to be more involved with ourselves and know, like, what is my role in this whole busyness that I'm playing, right? Because if I'm not actually actively involved in it, then who am I going to blame, right? You can only take the responsibility.
Yes.
So why is it? I mean, I love this question. And executives, if you're listening out there, like, pay attention. Why is it important for executives to work less? Because they have this idea, and I think it's part of society's way of saying that you're someone, or society's way of making me more significant, or whatever that is, whatever the reasoning is, or the story you keep telling yourself, right, is reinforced by, if I'm working a lot, that means I'm the best, or something. I don't know. So why do we have to work less? Why do executives have to work less?
Well, you've got one life. And if you look at the regrets people have on their dying bed, it's never, oh, I wish I worked more. It's always, I wish I worked less and I spent more time with my loved ones. And if you're looking deep down, as much as you love your work and as fulfilling as it is, I'm pretty sure that if you are on your deathbed, you didn't wish, oh, I wish I worked more. So it's as simple as that. You have one life. And knowing that you actually can reduce your working hours to free up time to do what you love to do outside of work is a pretty amazing thought, right? Whether you spend it with loved ones, whether you spend it on your own, whether you go in nature, whether you go on a hike, it doesn't really matter, but crave time out to do the things that you love. And to do that, you need to work less. And now the thing with working less, that can already cause anxiety for some. How can you say I need to work less? Because I have so much to do. You may have so much to do, but you can do it in less hours. It's really about what are you working on? And that gets us to the I from my time matrix. Implement aligned action. Really, if you are able to articulate your goals, and you're not an executive without articulating your goals, you are also able to take aligned action, everything that points into the right direction. Where it gets muddy is when we all of a sudden think we need to do something else, or someone asks us to do. And you always have to ask yourself, is this something that helps me to achieve my goals and the company to get further? And is it something that we made a priority right now? Or is it not something that is my priority and that someone else needs to pick up, or we just need to push out for a bit? And that's really where it goes wrong. And with respect to priorities, I honestly feel that we shouldn't only focus on the priorities in work, but also on the priorities in life. Let's take, for example, health. Some say health is the new wealth. Well, if you don't make your health a priority, it's going to cost you. If you don't take care of you, if you don't work out, if you don't look after your energy, if you don't eat somehow healthy, you really, really are not going to be able to work as much. And that's something we often forget when we are truly, constantly working. We think, oh, I feel okay, I will do it. But the thing is, if you truly want to be more productive and get more done in less time, you start by looking after yourself. Because a fit person, an energetic person, gets way more done when they are well rested. We have all had that one, you have to finish a project, so you keep on working. The next morning you feel crap. You can't do half of it because you're so tired. That already is a telltale. I think that's the best telltale why you really should work less, look after yourself, and enjoy life. You didn't work. Don't let your work run your life. Make sure that you live, nicely.
And I think, to me, I'm very, we facilitate a lot of leadership programs, and what it specifically does is really get you to get your goals in place and really define them so that you know what it is you're doing, right? And to that point, I would like to make the statement that if you don't have constructive ways of going about actively being involved with your time and how you use your time and prioritize your time, you have a lack of leadership that you're taking in life, right? Because essentially you're going to point back at your fingers and say, okay, well, if I'm not actually achieving this thing, like, what am I doing wrong? And that anxiety thing, and I'm guilty of it. You go, well, if I'm not working, then I feel guilty because I could be doing so much right now, right? But also, for me, growth, for example, is a really, really important thing. So when I take downtime, I could literally be reading and growing myself, doing something that's enabling, or managing that anxiety for me as well. So it goes hand in hand. And I think, this thing about timekeeping, I think it's almost become a wonderful excuse just for people to say, well, I don't have enough time. Like, you don't know how much I've got to do, so please don't come tell me, and it's like, well, and to the point, the presidents in the world, they have the same amount of time. But they know, how much time they have to prioritize on exactly what it is they do. And yes, there's professionals like you and I that can help them, right? So I mean, this time matrix. It's the proven framework to free up time. Do you just want to reiterate that for us, and then also then finally conclude our conversation on what advice can you give us, and just give us some kind of practical things that we can start doing today, because I think this conversation is such a necessary one, and people avoid it, and they don't do enough.
Yeah. So the time matrix, the T stands for target. I'll first tell you what it stands for, and then I'll talk about it a bit more. The T stands for targets, the I for implementation, the M for momentum, and the E for elevation. So basically, if you set your targets and you identify your priorities, both in work and life, then you know what you're working towards.
Yeah.
Then you start implementing by taking aligned actions, and everything else you say no to. Warren Buffett, one of the most successful, richest people in the world, according to many, says the difference between successful and very successful people is that very successful people say no to almost everything. So when you struggle by saying no again, think about him and start saying no. Okay, so take aligned actions that are linked to your priorities. Then what you will see, and as a leader, I think this is critical, is that you start building momentum. You get your team that is excited, that wants to help, because what you will see is that things will start to change, things will start to shift. You actually, and that takes us to the E, you get the results, you elevate the business, you elevate yourself because you feel better. And you also take that moment to evaluate what's going well. So what can we do more of? So target, implement, momentum, elevate. And that's really what it's all about. So it works very well, and it gives you a life next to being successful in business.
I love that. Yvonne, it's been such a wonderful time spending, these last 30 minutes with you. Any sort of last sentiments for this conversation that you want to share with us?
Sure. So you asked me about tips, how to go about it when I'm really, busy. So what I really would like to say, what really works, is every day before you start your day, before you start working, ask yourself, what are my 3 most impactful actions of the day that I'm going to focus on? 3 most impactful actions. And of course, they are, pointing you to get the results that you're after. And if you focus on those 3, as preferably first thing, you will do what makes the most impact every day. And by doing so, you get a lot of done, and you get the most important things done, and you will get a lot of time. And then, because we spoke about emails, what I really like to do is to time block, so have some time blocked off in my calendar that helps me to do certain things. Normally we have meetings, but there's also preparation time. And instead of checking your email continuously throughout the day, all the time, rather block some time during the day so you really have time to focus on it, work on it, and answer it. And by doing that, you stop that continuously, getting input, or I need to answer right now, but I don't have time because I run into a meeting. So stop checking your phone when you don't have time. Rather, carve out some time to do it and to give it really some momentum to answer emails, because that will make you feel so much better. And because you're doing it in a pressured amount of time, you will get it more done. And you will really be on top of everything without lingering throughout the whole day and making yourself getting anxious about it.
Wow, fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. Practical things that you can do. And that's why, and I think that's the point, right? It's not like you need to change the world right now. You just have to be a little bit more aware of how you put yourself together, how you put your day together, and what actions you're taking. Absolutely. And it's that habit formation, right? How do you create a small new habit to kind of support, yourself winning forward? Yvonne Dram, thank you so much for joining me, guys. If you want to check it out, you can go to her website at amaze-yourself.com. All the links for Yvonne is going to be on the links below in the description boxes below. Yvonne Dram, thank you so much for joining me, and please come back as soon as you can and give us more wonderful information.
Thank you so much for having me, Kevin.
Chat to you soon. Thanks, Yvonne.
Bye.
Bye.